Hi everyone, welcome to this month's training with the Next Level Growth Club. I'm here with Stefan from Trouble.com and we're going to be talking about everything SEO this month. So just to start off, in case you don't know Stefan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah. My name's Stefan. I've been a software developer for 20 years-ish. I was the lead developer at the Bounce Castle Network for 10-ish years. And then I left to join Bandcamp, a big international music store, for about 6 years. And now I'm setting up as a freelancer called Trouble. Cheers.
Thank you. Um, Now we all sort of know that SEO is important, but sometimes I think there's a bit of lack of understanding of what SEO actually is and what it means and why it's important. Could you just give us a quick summary of what is SEO and why do we need to be bothered about it?
Yeah. So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. It's a term that's been around for forever. And what it really means is optimizing, tweaking your website so it does better on search engines, so it ranks higher. Like it's a lot more than that though, because really it's about the whole process from someone searching to making their way through to your website and then converting as well. I think a lot of the time the focus is on the keyword ranking positions, but really it's about the whole optimization of the experience from someone who's starting at a search engine.
Brilliant. That's great. So, for SEO, we're looking at sort of why it's going to be important for us to implement things on our website and on our Google profile potentially to make us more visible to customers. So, are there certain things that you think, as bouncy castle companies or local service businesses, that are essential that we're doing on our websites so that Google knows, loves, and trusts us and is willing to show us to our potential customers?
Yeah. So the main thing that I see a lot of people missing on their sites is having kind of low information density pages. So that's either that there isn't much content on the page at all, or there is, but it's kind of waffly, and it doesn't do a good job then of selling the business to the visitor. Um, Google's looking for that. Google's got some metrics called, let's just get it up, experience. Oh, I just had it a second ago. Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And so they're using really clever machine learning kind of AI algorithms to decide how your website ranks in terms of experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. And so the thing that I miss on people that I see people missing on the site all the time is explaining why they should be the kind of company that the customer should choose over their competition. And instead they'll kind of give a very matter-of-fact description of the product. And sometimes not even really that. They'll just describe the product in a very kind of surface level.
Mm.
So that's the thing that I see people missing all the time is selling their expertise to the visitor.
Okay. So if I currently had a website and I had a pink unicorn castle, and at the moment my listing said pink unicorn castle available to hire in Manchester, um, ideal for children. What else could I do? What else could I add to that? If you've got a few examples that would make Google go, you know what, actually, we're going to show this site above another site, or we're going to show this in the search results, that would just elevate it a bit more and make Google want to show its people.
Yeah, so the like this would be different from business to business, and you'd have to decide what fits you. But the things that say that you would be looking for on a page like that would be what people are looking for when they book that Princess Castle from you is an actual description of what the experience is like of hiring it from you. So then they want to know things like logistical stuff, like
Mm.
how is it going to get into your garden? Does it need a blower? You know,
Mm.
what kind of what suitability of kids age range is it? How many kids can be on it at once? How exhausting is it going to be? You'll be able to think of loads of stuff. Can you use party poppers on it? All the questions that you would have. Then there's a whole lot of stuff around why they should choose you. So why are you any different from your competition down the road? What expertise have you got? How long have you been doing this? How
Mm.
much pride do you take in the units? What qualifications do you have? What membership? What bodies are you a membership of? What kind of insurance have you got? How corporate are you? You know, how capable are you of presenting yourself well to a corporate market? Those are the kind of things that a potential customer would be looking for. And then Google is analyzing your page from they're not, Google isn't able to say, um, how am I phrasing this? Google isn't thinking, Google's AI isn't a thinking machine that's able to qualitatively say, you know, is this business better than the other business? But they
Mm.
can take a whole load of trust factors from the whole internet and they can kind of guess at what makes things trustworthy. And so the things that would make you trustworthy would be that you would be mentioning those kind of things on your site, but then also that the visitors or that your customers have left reviews around the internet backing up the things that you say. So
Yeah,
backing up that you were delivered on time, that you were sufficiently corporate, you know, that you showed your insurance, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And then they'd be looking for as well consistency across the internet. So they want to see that you know that you're using the same this is kind of really basic stuff, but they're using the same kind of business name everywhere, that you've got the same phone number everywhere, that you're whenever you mention your website, it's the same website. They want to be really sure that you're you, basically,
yeah,
because they use that to build a profile of your trustworthiness. And your website is one of the factors that come into that. But your website really should be the thing that backs up all these other signals from elsewhere on the internet.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's what Google's after.
Grand, brilliant. So from that, I got four things. So correct me if I'm wrong. So the first thing is making sure you're answering customers' questions, however varied and diverse they could be, which could be anything from will the castle fit through my garden gate to get into my garden? Do I need electricity? That's a good one I always love when I get. Is the castle suitable for a 4-year-old? So it's having
Yeah.
answers to popular and probably slightly less asked questions as well.
Yep.
Then the trustworthiness, so having references to things like your public liability, risk assessments, if you've maybe been finalists in awards, that sort of thing. Then the
Yep.
other side from sort of the trustworthiness is reviews, either sort of in the wider universe of the internet to support what you've said and that you're reputable. And then the consistency so that everywhere on the internet, you have the same information available. Is that
Spot
right?
on. Yeah. And I would also, you know, I'd also I'd enhance that link between your website and those other profiles around the internet by making sure that your reviews page linked off to all those other places where people can leave a review and
Yeah,
maybe quoted reviews that were particularly relevant to products on the right place and link back to those. You just want to make it really obvious to visitor landing on your site that, okay, these people that are leaving reviews are real. This business
yeah,
has been around for a while. You know, the normal kind of check that you would do if it was an industry that you were totally unfamiliar with and you were trying to dig into, is this builder reputable or whatever? Those kind of checks that you would do would be the same kind of stuff that you should be emphasizing on your site. And
grand.
that's the same kind of stuff that Google's looking for.
Lovely. So, hey, how much has AI changed SEO? What's happening in the SEO world with AI? Is that anything we need to be worried about? Do we need to be rejoicing about? Does it make any differences to the content we need on our website? How's it all
Yeah.
working?
So I would say that the big change to AI that AI has made is that loads of people's websites that previously had maybe the occasional misspelling or strange but use of grammar, but was written with their personality and their knowledge about their products, and was clearly from a human. And now a lot of the time that has been replaced with very generic text that's come from an AI that doesn't really do a great job of selling the business. And I've seen companies who've had websites that had kind of janky content written on about all the products, but the love had gone into it and it had been described from the person's actual point of view of hiring those units out and being very familiar with them and
Yeah.
their use. And they thought, I can't really spell that well. And they replaced it with AI stuff. And the AI stuff is just really generic and
Mm.
doesn't do any of those jobs of selling the points that Google's interested in. I don't think, that's how AI has affected it in terms of people's websites getting worse. I don't think that it has affected the game all too much of how to rank well on Google, because it's always been the same advice from Google. Google have always said these metrics of experience and trustworthiness are the important things.
Yeah.
It's just that over time, Google's algorithms, separate from AI, have got better at detecting spam, basically. So in the olden days, say the olden days, 10 years ago, you used to be able to get away with stuff that was borderline spammy on your website. You still, it's not that you don't get away with it now. It's just that you aren't rewarded for it now. And then you're doing this stuff on your website that looks kind of borderline spammy and is an unpleasant user experience for visitors, and it's not even helping you on Google. So, like that's what's changed really is that these borderline spammy things that you get away with, you can no longer help. But it's not necessarily that AI has changed anything.
Okay.
That Google has the AI answers bit that pops up at the top
Yeah.
of the results and gives you answers and maybe quickly answers your question. Um, I've got plenty of gripes with that because I don't think that it's particularly accurate. I don't think it does a very good job of funneling people's information. I don't think it's particularly fair.
Mm.
But the rules or the process for ranking in that AI answers bit is the same stuff that I'm talking about now. It's all the same process of experience and authoritativeness and consistency.
Yeah. Grand. So with the sort of Google, obviously getting Google to love you and stuff, AI will love you for the same reasons, and that's pretty much what you're saying. Like there's yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing different you need to do for AI. And if your customer is searching in AI for an answer, so if they go into like ChatGPT or one of the other ones and they're searching, generally the results are going to be what Google would give as a result as any as well.
Where no, so the results will be worse and less accurate. I don't think that like this might be a teething problem. Maybe it's the case that in a couple of years' time, once AI is less of a bubble,
Mm.
then the results that the AI stuff give you will be better. But the results that it gives you at the minute are worse and less likely to be useful. So that means that if your site is good, it's less likely to do well in AI just because everything does less, and you're more likely to get some nonsense showing up instead. I don't think, though, that that's something that you should then try and correct
Yeah.
by engineering your site for AI. You just kind of have to accept that AI is kind of rubbish at the minute. The thing that I think this is worth saying, the thing that a lot of people miss about AI is that it doesn't know truth from fiction. It doesn't know right from wrong. It isn't reasoning in any sense that we'd understand. It's well, it isn't reasoning in any sense. It's deterministically deciding or presenting to you information that is statistically average. So it's collected all of the information from the whole internet and then it's presenting you with an average of that information. But
Yeah.
the average isn't worked out with any kind of nuance or scientific rigor. It's just an average of all the words. So like the results that you get from it can be kind of rubbish because they're just apart like a result of this process of averaging things out, and it's very fuzzy.
Mm.
To be clear as well, the results on Google are much worse now than they were 10 years ago as well, despite that Google has got better at detecting some spammy things that you're doing because AI has made the whole situation way more complicated. Loads of people's websites now are filled up with AI nonsense, and there's loads of spam websites that are out there that are just filled with AI stuff just to rank for keywords. Um, so the whole world of SEO is kind of topsy-turvy at the minute, but the same principles have always applied. And it's always been as well that, you know, if you focus on your position from one day to the next,
Mm.
one day you're going to be disappointed, and the next day you'll be elated, and it's not going to make much kind of rhyme or reason. But if you look at your results over a long period, then you'll see that it gradually pays off, and putting the work in on your site gradually causes these improvements. But it's always going to be that everything seems very flaky. And if you pay very close attention to specific search results on AI or otherwise, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Okay. Grand. So keywords. I've spoken to you about sort of keywords before because in the olden days, again, it was always my understanding, at least, that you wanted to put as many keywords as what you can on your website. So bouncy castle, soft play, the towns you cover, and you wanted them on every page, and you wanted lots of pages, and you wanted to just shove them anywhere. Um, but from our conversation, um, it's more about answering that customer's questions and giving them a great experience on the website. Because obviously we don't want them to hit the website and then go straight off. We want them to stay and have a journey through the website and become a customer. So what are your
Yeah.
sort of thoughts with keywords and how we should or shouldn't be using them?
Yeah, so I'd say that despite that everyone does stuff their websites full of keywords and that has been the practice for forever, it's never been what Google has recommended. Google has never said we want you to list a whole bunch of towns on every page of your or every single one of your products, for example.
Mm.
And it's never really been the case that that's been the most effective way to rank for a town or rank for a combination of a town and a product. It's always been that it's slightly better than nothing. And
Yeah,
the reality is that out of all of the websites out there, 95% of them are paying zero attention to SEO.
yeah,
So if you do anything on your website, even if it's spammy and rubbish, it's better than 95% of them, and you will see some results from that. The problem comes then when you're competing with the 5% who are actually paying attention to it.
yeah,
And amongst those 5%, the listing a load of towns or listing a load of keywords isn't really going to do anything. And the people who will see the results will be the ones who actually think about the customer intention and what a customer would find valuable from their site. So,
mm,
for example, to take the towns, and we were talking about this before, a lot of websites will they'll feel obliged to have a page on their town, a page on their site for every single town that they want to rank well in. But
yeah,
then that page will have very thin content on it. And if a visitor landed on it, they might think that something's gone wrong or that the website isn't complete or they're not going to have an experience that's like, oh yeah, this is definitely answering the question that I want because it's sometimes just got 2 lines of very thin text that just
mm,
mentions that town name a bunch of times. So that's like an incredibly negative user experience. But if they landed on that site and it then provided lots of useful information about that service and town combination, that's a totally different thing. And that page would do really well. And but the thing is that the content for that page is quite tricky to write. Like it's quite
mm,
difficult to think of how do I deliver these services in this area, or how, never mind service and area combinations, just services like,
mm.
there's loads of different nuances of everyone's business. How can you really describe two aspects of your business that are very similar, aside from, for example, that the theme of the party is different? Like, what difference does that really make to a bounce castle hirer?
Yeah,
Probably a marginal difference. So, like, even talking about that on your site could be quite difficult. Never mind once you're getting into the combinations of that with towns. But that's where the challenge comes in. The people who can think of where is the actual value that I can provide from someone who from that town who's searching for my product,
yeah,
they'll have a huge leg up over the people who've just put a sentence on.
yeah. So, I mean, where I operate is very rural. So I'm fortunate in a way that there isn't a lot of competitors, and there isn't a lot of competitors doing anything very well on their website. But when you get somewhere like Manchester or London or Newcastle, and there are a lot of companies vying for the same business, the aim
Yeah.
obviously is to get people to land on your website, well, to find your website first of all, and then have the answers to all their questions answered. So they literally click, they find out everything they've ever needed to know on that site. So there's no hesitation. They're not going to look anywhere else. They're going to book.
Yeah, you got it. So
Yeah,
like, that can lead to, and I mentioned this before, that you might feel like, oh, this is getting quite repetitive here, that I'm mentioning my qualifications on every single page or the delivery areas on every single page. And that's right, that would be repetitive, and that's not really the best way to do it. It would be much better to say, to summarize that you are qualified and have a link through for the user to dig through and find that information if they want. But the important thing is just to make it really, really easy for them to find that information. Not
yeah,
necessarily to put every single bit of information about your business in front of their face,
yeah,
but just to make it really reassuring to them that if they did want to learn about your safety information, your qualifications, whatever,
yeah,
then it's a click away to do it.
yeah, yeah. So clear menus, clear categories. So
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way, when you were saying before about, not having all these random pages, it's almost cluttering it up, isn't it, for a customer?
yeah, yeah,
By
that's it.
wanting to
Yeah,
find out the answer to X, Y, and Z, they need that information clearly displayed without having 5,000 pages of stuff that
yeah.
isn't going to be relevant to them.
Yeah, spot on. And if you're going to have like hundreds of pages on your website, which, that's a legitimate enough approach if you can think of the decent enough content to have on them all. If you're going to have that many pages, there should be some clear hierarchical structure to it where someone who lands on one of those pages isn't immediately bombarded with, oh
Yeah,
my God, I'm looking at 200 pages here. It should be that they can tell where they are in the tree of information.
yeah,
So they can tell, oh, I'm looking at a delivery areas page here in the delivery areas section, rather than just I'm looking at delivery areas pages, which are mixed in with categories, which are mixed in with event types, and a list of 50 different categories down the left-hand side that aren't in alphabetical order and aren't even in priority order. Like uh, so yeah, it
yeah.
all needs to be the information that's being presented to them is easily digestible, and that doesn't just like we're talking about here. That doesn't just apply to the content that's in the immediate body of the page that they're looking at. It's the menus and it's the images and it's the whole experience needs to be really, really, really obvious and straightforward.
Grand. Um, are blogs useful on a website in terms of SEO?
So if you can provide useful information on them, I would say that they're useful. But then again, it's like what would a visitor who lands on your website, who reads your blog, want to see? Probably they don't want to see you just listing a load of towns that you deliver to
Yeah.
and using it for SEO purposes. Probably they will think, oh, this is weird looking. This isn't a news section,
Mm.
and it won't really have much effect. And also, if you've got a load of pages on your blog that are, say, for about Bounce Castle Hire in Cumbria, that's diluting the the of all the pages on your site, it's making it less clear which is the one that's about Bounce Castle Hire in Cumbria,
Yeah,
because there's a load of blog pages that are now talking about it. So I
yeah,
would say that the blog pages should be about specific things that happened in time.
yeah,
So that could be that you did a certain event and you would write a blog post up about that, and then you're creating a post on there that's shows to a visitor you've recently done projects of some sort of scale that they can see if that's appropriate to their event, and
yeah,
that you're active, and then they can see as well, oh, what's it actually like to hire a unit from this company. Whereas like that's not what I see on a lot of blog posts. A lot of blog posts is just reiterating the categories and the delivery areas
mm,
with waffle, and no
yeah,
one will ever read that. And anyone that does read it will think this is weird. And Google won't think that it's providing any particular value to the site because it isn't really. The thing that a lot of this SEO stuff comes down to really is being frank about the content on your site and what the intention of it is. And if the intention is just that you want Google to read it and they're not bothered about what the visitor experience is like, that's not going to pay off. Um, it might pay off in terms of the Google ranking, but it's not going to pay off when someone actually clicks through to your website. And I mentioned before that we were talking about the conversion rate on most websites is very, very low. And that can make it kind of disheartening when you're paying attention to your traffic or whatever. You might think, oh, I've got 100 visitors and only one of them made an inquiry, which will actually be quite good going, really. Um, but if you can make that conversion rate from 1% to 2%, that's the same as having doubled your traffic in terms of the amount of business
yeah,
that it's going to generate for you. And it's way easier to do that than it is to double the traffic.
yeah,
There's loads of room on everyone's site that I see. Unless they've really focused on it and really been dedicated to it for a long time, there's always room on people's sites for making it more obvious how to spend money with them.
yeah,
But people miss that in exchange for trying to be the number one spot on Google at, at the cost of everything else.
yeah,
And like that's not to say, the reality is as well that the number one spot on Google gets a lot more clicks than the number two one, that gets a lot more clicks than the number three one. It does pay off to be in the number one spot.
mm,
But the conversion rate thing makes that whole equation kind of meaningless. And the reality is as well that most of the people that land on your site, unless you've really killed it on the SEO, the majority of people that land on your site won't be from Google. They'll
yeah,
be from your social media and from your word of mouth.
yes,
Um,
yeah,
so like obsessing about the Google bit is
yeah.
detrimental to everyone else.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And, anybody that's with BCN, you can go in and you can track where your referrals have come from. So I always find that really useful to go through and see. And most of it, well, 50% is either referral or word of mouth. So,
Yeah.
yes, Google SEO is important because that is bringing me in customers, but there is a vast majority of people that are coming in from referrals from friends and family, from repeat business, from Facebook and such like as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
want them to be able to land on the website and have a good experience rather than find all these pages of nonsense and waffle that just confuse them
that's
and
it.
lead them to go in elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like focusing on the website quality for everyone is beneficial to every single one of your customers, whereas focusing on the Google side can be very um, disadvantageous to attracting some sorts of customers. Like there's uh, there's a whole world of customers out there, and some of them will not even read anything that's on your site, and they'll just look at the pictures, and it doesn't really matter what the content on it says, and they'll just go through and book. Fine, and you'll get those people if your site is filled up with SEO rubbish. But some people will read the content that's on your site, and if they get two paragraphs into it and it's not said anything about you or the business or whatever, it's just clear that it's written by AI.
Mm.
And I'm saying that it's written by AI because that's always the problem. It's very rarely that I see someone who's written the content themselves where, well, sometimes they'll have written the content themselves and missed points, but it's very rarely that I'll see someone who's wrote the content themselves and there's a full description and it's all rubbish.
Yeah.
Like that, normally if they've written a few paragraphs, it's pretty good if someone's written themselves and they could, you're normally missing a couple of things because they've took the time to think about the product.
Yeah.
But when you outsource that thinking to AI, it's nearly always rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah. So one other thing I asked you about was sort of my Google business profile, um, because we should all have one of those set up as a business, and you can collect reviews on there, post images, post blogs, or whatever they call it, little bits of information. How important is it to have that regularly updated? And what are your thoughts on updating the photos, getting the Google reviews, putting little blog posts on? What's the best thing you can do on there and what probably isn't worth the time focusing on?
Yeah, so I think that the review side of it, 100% worth focusing on. I would put lots and lots of focus on that. I would say that having a good amount of Google reviews on your maps listing is more important really than what position your website ranks in. Because loads of people who we're talking about, these non-people who are from Google, word of mouth people or whatever, they will Google you to see what your reputation of the business is like.
Yeah,
So there's some amount of people who'll never even make it to your website who have you checked you out on Google. So you need to have a good maps listing on there. Google also really prioritizes the maps listing and they'll show it above the search results for people who are near you.
yeah,
So, if you're in a bounce castle industry, for example, it's all about your local people near you.
mm,
Those are your customers. The nationwide thing doesn't really matter. So if you can have your listing showing up there just by virtue of its having good Google reviews, and you don't even have to necessarily even have a website. Like that's hugely advantageous. So I think the number one priority I would say is that should have some way for people to easily get in touch with you. I would say that the website is probably the easiest way to do that with an inquiry form or something. Or second best, be very, very active on social media and always able to pick up the phone. And then the next thing would be to have a Google Maps listing that's got good ratings on, because that directs loads and loads of traffic
yeah,
um, from people including from people who weren't looking for your business specifically, who were looking for general terms, and Google's highlighted you on the maps. So yeah,
yeah,
super important. The other stuff on Google Business Profile, they nag you endlessly about. Like I've got a couple of listings because I help people with their profiles, and they send you loads and loads of emails asking you to fill in this or that thing, and to keep this and that bit of information up to date. I don't think it makes any difference. I personally have never clicked into the news posts on a Google Maps listing. I can't imagine like it's awkward to do in the first place. I don't think that makes any difference. But I do think that you should, if someone leaves you a negative review and it's saying something scandalous, then you should reply to it and correct the matter if they're wrong. If they're not wrong, then I don't know, like correct your mistakes. Um, but that kind of stuff is super important. The experience of the person before they've even landed on your site is all about these trust signals from places like Google. And it might not be, Google might not be the best place for your industry. We're talking about bounce castle people here, where it is largely going to be people Googling and going to Google first. But it might be that you need to have a good display on Checker Trade or trusted people or whatever's relevant for your niche.
yeah, definitely. So we're coming to the end. We've got a few minutes left. Is there anything that I've missed asking you about? Anything that you think, as a business owner, sort of with a local business where you're geographically restricted, that there's something you should be going out today or this week or this month and really doing? If there's one or two key things that are simple that we can manage to do ourselves without calling in expert help, what is it we should be focusing on?
Yeah, so I think something that people can dead easily do that doesn't take any skill whatsoever is see what the experience is like for someone trying to navigate to your website from Google or from, from other, try other search engines as well. It might be the case that you, actually, I don't know if it's worth, hardly anyone uses Bing. Scrap that advice. Try Google. But go on your phone, go on your laptop from a not signed into Google profile so they don't know that it's you and search for your towns. Then look at what your listing shows up there, how your listing displays in the results, whether it's linking to a page that is relevant. And then when you click through to that page, analyze that page from the point of view of a visitor who doesn't know anything about your business and who might have, compare yourself to the other results on that page. Are they doing a good job of selling their business when you click through and immediately explaining why the business is trustworthy and experienced and what with the other stuff, expertise and authoritiveness? Like, are the other people doing that? And are you not doing it? I would imagine that unless you're in an industry where, there's very low competition, which this will apply to some basketball people. But if you're in an area where there's any amount of competition whatsoever, the people who are ranking well probably have loads of signals on their website and on the broader internet about their trustworthiness. And it might be, you might look at their site and you might think, oh, they haven't got as many products as I've got, and they haven't got as many location pages, and the products haven't got as many photos or whatever. And other things that you could maybe analyze and say, oh, well, maybe my business is better than theirs. But really, the thing that Google is looking for is trustworthiness and these signals. And Google's not bothered about your range
Yeah,
or, how many photos you've got. Those are nice things to have for the visitors. But the thing that Google's looking for is this person a scammy site or not? Like, we're on the spectrum from spam site to, you know, um, the most trustworthy Wikipedia. Where on that spectrum does your site fall? And
yeah,
you want to be as close to the Wikipedia, straight advice, as helpful as you possibly can, and as far away from the spam site, list of loads of keywords, just trying to rank well at all costs site.
brilliant.
And like that, that it eventually pays off. I suppose that's the thing that I should mention as well. The second point, first point, check it out from the visitor's point of view. But the second point is to have faith that this eventually does pay off. That from day to day, it might be disheartening to look at your search results, and it might be disheartening to see someone who's got a spammy site doing better than you. But after all my years of experience, across the board, the people who do well are the ones who focus on the providing value to the visitors on the website. And it might take them a long time to get there, but once they do, they're set and they haven't done anything shady, and the status isn't risky. They've got a really solid business there that's ranking well, that's always going to do well unless they do something catastrophic to mess it up.
Yeah,
But the people who do the spammy stuff are the ones who get bitten by changes to the Google updates, whose rankings suddenly drop, who are always fretting. Like the people who obsess about the search results and the number one positions to the detriment of everything else get the worst results in the long run. It's the people who focus on the visitor experience, they get the more traffic and it pays off in the end.
brilliant. Thank you. If anyone wants a bit more help, if they feel like they just need a bit more pointing in the right direction, can you just share your contact details, your website and such like with us, and then they've got that
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so my website is chobble.com. That's chobble.com. I try to be very transparent. So any job that I do for you or anything, I'll be fully transparent about what it is. If I'm working with you to do SEO stuff, I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. My aim is to educate people and have them think, oh, I could do this themselves, rather than them, feel like they're bound to me to be in charge of their search results or whatever. I'd rather teach them how to fish.
Brilliant. That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been brilliant to get some burning questions answered, and I hope that's been helpful for everybody. If anyone has any questions, do feel free to drop a message over to Stefan and myself. We'll be happy to help, or I'll point you in the right direction if I can't help you. And see you all soon.
Cheers.